Hey there, and welcome back to By His Grace Marriage Ministry Podcast. My name is Amanda. Today's episode is going to be a little bit deep, and it might be a little bit all over the place because, as always, I am sharing a word that I feel led by the Holy Spirit to share with you all today. I have nothing written down. I have nothing put together. This is just me simply sharing the words that are in my heart and in my spirit with you today. So this word was brought on by some scripture reading that I had done a couple of days ago, and some things that I had seen between yesterday and today, which, by the way, for those of you who keep the Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom to you. I pray that you're having a blessed and restful Sabbath. So, I was reading in the book of Sirach, which is in the Apocrypha. For those of you who are not familiar with the Apocrypha, they are the missing books of the Bible, including Enoch, Jashar, and Jubilees. This was my first time reading in the book of Sirach, and the book of Sirach is full of wisdom. It's very similar to Ecclesiastes, and I was finding these words to be very, very comforting during that day specifically for me. And I came across some verses that really stood out to me. And what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about the importance of privacy within your marriage and family, and even outside of your marriage and family. So again, this word is for those of you who are still single, and this word is for those of you who are already in your Yah-ordained marriage. So I want to start off by saying, as I have mentioned so many times before throughout this podcast, that especially when you are in a Yah-ordained marriage, or you're being brought into a Yah-ordained marriage, the enemy will do whatever he can to attack you, to either delay or stop this marriage from coming together, or attack you while you're in your marriage to cause damage, separation, or potentially just destroy your marriage and family altogether. Why? Because we know that Satan opposes anything that comes from Elohim. Okay? He hates marriage, he hates family, and he hates anyone who lives for Elohim and follows his word. So the enemy will use anyone or anything to attack you that might be around you, okay? And this is something I haven't spoke about too much, but one of the biggest ways that the enemy can do this, other than family members or friends, is also on social media. Now again, I haven't spoke too much on social media in any of my words as of recent, but I am going to talk about it today because one of the things I've noticed, and I'm not on social media often except to share my ministry and possibly connect and have fellowship with other brothers and sisters. To be honest with you, if it wasn't for those two things, I actually wouldn't have social media, because social media, sadly, number one, it is very worldly, it is very secular. And I highly caution that if you have children that are teenagers, to really pray about the issue of whether or not they should have a social media account. Now, there are several social media platforms. The ones that I'm familiar with are Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and I think there's Twitter. Outside of that, I don't remember any of the other names, nor am I familiar with them. I currently just have Facebook, but I highly caution for those of you who are parents to older children, really think about this, and even for yourselves. Sadly, the one thing that I have noticed for some time, excuse me, is that the enemy is using social media platforms in very big ways, in many ways. And, unless Elohim himself has told you to have a social media account and to utilize it maybe for the purpose of ministry, then do that, Oh, and of course, YouTube. There are many people that are using YouTube as a platform for their ministries as well. However, I want to highly caution, for those of you that utilize YouTube, be very careful about what you're watching and what you're listening to, please, okay? Just like with TV and programs and movies and music, be very careful of what you are listening and watching. So guard your ear gates and your eye gates, okay? Be very careful about what you're intaking. So with social media, again, with children, I would really think about whether you want your children to even open that door, okay? Again, the enemy is using social media big time. Now, something that Elohim had brought to me quite a few years ago, and it's strange because I remember when Elohim had led me to reactivate my Facebook. I actually had no social media for a couple of years. And I remember one day him letting me know to go ahead and reactivate my Facebook account. And it was for the purpose of my ministry. Apart from that, I remember Abba telling me very specifically to keep my personal life out of it. So no posting pictures of family, no sharing things, no anything like that. I think maybe once or twice I may have come on and shared how I may have been feeling at that time. And it really more had to do with how I was seeing brothers and sisters just kind of tear one another down, with their words and the needless debates and arguments. And I remember just expressing that. But apart from that, I was only using it for my ministry, but I remember Abba telling me, especially when he started bringing things together for me concerning marriage and family, to leave that completely out of there, okay? So this is the word that I have today concerning the importance of privacy within your marriage and family, and this is the word that I have. I am highly, highly encouraging for couples, for husbands and wives, to not post so freely on their social media pages if you have social media. Do not post pictures of you and your family. Do not talk about what you all are dealing with and facing for not only just the people that you have on your friends list to see, but for anybody else to have access. Now, I realize that social media platforms such as Facebook have privacy settings and such to where not everybody can have access to your page. Here's the thing about this though, while that's great, here's the really sad yet true thing, is that most of the dangers that we face, most of the attacks and issues that we face come from people we know, or come from like-minded believers, or come from loved ones, or come from friends, sadly. Now, obviously this isn't the case for everybody, which for those that it isn't, I thank Abba for that. But for majority of people, this is what they're dealing with. For me personally, I have been heartbroken many times over the fact that I have trusted people fairly quickly, people who were friends, people who were family members, only to have them be completely a different person, do or say something that is just not nice, that ends up being hurtful or harmful in some way or another. And it got to the point where my trust began to really go down to where I was getting to the point where I wasn't trusting anybody anymore. And I thought, I'm just going to keep a lot of what I'm going through and a lot of what's going on in my life, good or bad, to myself. Because I was starting to see this often. And I remember praying about this, and I remember the Ruach showing me that it's not always the person or the people, it's what's behind them. It's the spirits, okay? It's the demons. It could be a spirit of jealousy, a spirit of envy. It could be a spirit of narcissism. It could be a spirit of anger, you name it, okay? Bitterness. You know, I don't know about any of you, but have you ever noticed that when you're doing really good in life, at that moment in that season, or when Abba begins to bless you in certain areas, have you ever noticed that the people that were once claimed to be really close to you, that claimed to be there for you, that claimed to be happy for you, all of a sudden when they actually start seeing these things taking place in your life, have you ever noticed a change? Have you ever noticed that those same people all of a sudden aren't so close anymore? They're not so happy anymore? Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed that when Elohim starts to elevate you, or he blesses you in a certain area, or you're sharing something that, you know, took place that you're really happy about, and all of a sudden these same people, they're not doing that anymore? I know I've been through this a lot, and I remember actually sharing this on my Facebook, saying that isn't it sad that, you know, when things start going well for you, when life starts happening, or when blessings start coming in, that those people that you once thought were your loved ones, that were close to you, that you could trust, that you can rely on, that you thought would celebrate with you or be happy for you, all of a sudden they're not there anymore. All of a sudden they're showing a completely different side. And let me tell you something, a lot of that sadly has to do with jealousy. A lot of that has to do with jealousy. Okay, and so what I want to share, and I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna share the scriptures that I read in Sirach that really opened my eyes to this as well. But what I am saying is, whether you are single, whether you are just stepping into your marriage, or you're in the process of all of that, or you're already in your marriage, what I am trying to say to you is, please, please, please be careful about what you are sharing and what you are showing on social media. Be careful of what you are saying to certain people. I know it can be hard because you think, well, these are my best friends, or these are my family members, these are my loved ones. But please, just be very cautious, and first and foremost, pray and ask Elohim if that's what he wants you to do. Because sometimes the building or the process that you're going through, especially if you're just barely stepping into your marriage, okay, or you and your spouse are just barely building your life together in your family, Elohim is going to let you know, stay quiet about these things, okay? Why? Because he knows that there are spirits and demons out there, and what the enemy is doing, because he doesn't want these things to come to pass or happen, is that he is using the people around you, okay, or the situations around you to do this. So now all of a sudden the people that were once close to you, that were loving, that you felt like you could trust, you felt like if something good happened, you could share it with them and they would be happy for you. Because let's face it, nothing hurts more than when something good happens to you, or something you've been waiting for a long time, you finally stepped into it. Abba is clearly working in your life. There are blessings that are coming to pass, and nothing hurts worse than when you go and you're not sharing in a boastful way. You're just sharing to show Elohim's goodness and that these things are finally taking place, right? And nothing hurts more than when you go to these people that you think are going to celebrate with you. Okay, they're going to be happy for you. They're going to support you. And there's nothing that hurts worse when you go to these people and their reaction is the opposite. That is such a terrible feeling. It's a painful one. Okay. The other thing that is really is truthfully happening, and I have not talked about this before in my ministry, is right along with these spirits that come about, okay, these spirits of jealousy, envy, the narcissism, the anger, the bitterness, there is witchcraft that can be done, okay? These are people that dabble in this kind of work because they're just helping. These could be people that are being used by Satan himself, okay? And witchcraft is done to place curses on you and anything attached to you, okay? And there are many, many, many different types of curses, okay? Many different types of curses. And I'm not talking about the curses that we see mentioned in scripture that come from Elohim to those that are disobedient. I'm talking about witchcraft curses, okay? And maybe I'll go more in detail in a separate episode at some point. Maybe I won't, I don't know. But all these people need that are doing this witchcraft is pictures. Sometimes all they need is specific information on you sent to them by monitoring spirits or familiar spirits, okay? This is all spiritual warfare stuff. And that's why I'm highly cautioning to be careful on social media. Do not post pictures of your children on there. Do not post pictures of you and your spouse on there. Do not share all of these details about you and your family. And sadly, I see this happen too much. And social media outside of that is a danger as it is, right? But within the context of spiritual warfare, I'm telling you right now, be very careful about what you are sharing, okay? Be very careful about what you're saying to loved ones. And I think in an episode, I actually talked about, for couples, I said, be very careful that when you two have a disagreement or an argument, be very careful about going to somebody because you want to vent and sharing everything that took place, or because you're angry at the moment, you're speaking negatively about your spouse to these people, and then when you reconcile, these people still have that image of your spouse. And I'm telling you, the best thing you can do is keep these things between you, your spouse, your family, your children, and Elohim, okay? Please do not post your business on social media. I understand people say, well, what's the harm in sharing a beautiful picture of our family? I understand, and I think people should be able to do that. The unfortunate, sad truth is that every time you do that, you're taking a chance. You are risking, because you're putting your family out there, okay? It's enough that in this world, we live in this world, but we're not a part of it. But it's bad enough that almost on a daily basis, we have to go out and, be around different people, and different people see us, and we never know what's being done. Social media is another way to do that. And that's why I'm cautioning about what you are sharing. I personally do not post anything in regards to my family or any kind of pictures at all, because I don't want to give the enemy any opportunity at all to do anything up against me or my family. And sadly, for me personally, I have been dealing with nothing but jealousy and envy. With my family, with my ministry, with everything. And that's why I keep quiet. That, and it's what Elohim told me to do. Because the sad truth is, okay, for many of us, is that when Elohim begins to bless us, when he brings things into our lives that are from him, the sad truth is we are not going to have many that are going to be happy for us. We are not going to have anybody that's going to celebrate with us. There are going to be people, and it's not even so much those people, it's what's behind them, that are going to absolutely despise what you have or what you're doing. They're going to be jealous of your marriage. They're going to be jealous of the children you have, the way you're having your family, whatever ministry you're in, whatever it is that Abba decides to bless, you and your family with, and so on. Believe me when I say the sad truth is, very, very rarely are people going to be happy for you. I want to read to you the verses I came across in Sirach. And again, this really opened my eyes and confirmed to me a lot of what I was experiencing since I was a little kid, to be honest with you. And this has a lot to do with friendships, but you can also apply this to family members as well, okay? You can apply this to work. You can apply this really almost to anything, whether it's a friendship, work relationships, again, family members, you name it. And this is why, for me personally, my life is private. My family is private. My ministry isn't so much private because it's an instruction that Elohim gave me, was to get the ministry out there. And even with that, I'm taking a huge risk. But notice that even within my ministry, I don't share very, very much about my immediate family. I have shared my testimony that had to do with my extended family, what I went through growing up. But notice I have not shared anything about my immediate family, or my journey into my Yah ordained marriage, or anything like that. And that's why. And I know you all have heard me say, I'm still praying about it. I'm waiting to see if Abba gives me the green light. That's why. Because he hasn't given me the green light yet, and I am not sure if it's something that needs to be put out there right now. Once again, it's being cautious and being private in order to protect everything that Elohim is doing within my life, okay? Especially if you share prematurely or out of his timing, okay? All right, so I'm going to share from the book of Sirach, chapter 6, and I'm going to start at verse 7. It says, if you want to gain a friend, get him in a time of testing, and don't be in a hurry to trust him. For there is a friend just for an occasion. He won't continue in the day of your affliction. And there is a friend who turns into an enemy. He will discover strife to your reproach. And there is a friend who is a companion at the table, but he won't continue in the day of your affliction. In your prosperity he will be as yourself, and will be bold over your servants. If you are brought low, he will be against you, and will hide himself from your face. Separate yourself from your enemies, and beware of your friends. Okay? Listen, when I read these scriptures, I thought, wow, is that not true? And again, you can apply this to friends, you can apply this to family members, you can apply this to even co-workers, okay? And for me personally in my life, not only have I sadly seen what I just read with friendships and family members and co-workers, okay, I have seen this a lot take place in my life, but I have seen it even more when good things have taken place in my life, or when Abba has decided to bless me in some kind of way, be it a financial blessing, be it a blessing within family or marriage, or a blessing within ministry, or a blessing within health, you name it, no matter what it is. If a friend or a family or something like that saw that or knew of it because I told them, this is exactly what would happen. Instead of seeing it for what it was, seeing God's goodness, seeing his faithfulness and his love, and just celebrating that, wow, this sister has, had a financial blessing and she needed it, or wow, she's been healed, she's no longer sick, or wow. No, instead people have this attitude, that mindset of, well, why isn't it happening for me? Why does he or she get to have that? People instead act out of jealousy and envy and selfishness. And this is why I am saying that you need to be careful about what you are sharing, what you are talking about, and what you are putting, especially on social media. I cannot say this enough. And I know this message has probably been all over the place, but I cannot say this enough. Please, please limit what you are sharing on social media. Limit the pictures, okay? Especially the pictures. Especially the pictures. Okay? People can curse pictures. People can take them and use them for witchcraft. Okay? There's a reason why there are even brothers and sisters that physically distant themselves from family members and friends. Be careful about who you let into your home. I made mention of this in an episode where I was talking about, when you and your spouse have friendships, be careful who you are inviting into your home. Especially friendships and even family members, because again, going back to the verses I read, be careful about who you invite into your home. Be careful about what you are talking about and sharing. Because all of these things can be doors that can be open to the enemy and open to those spirits, those demons. Okay? Because that is how the enemy will try and operate in order to work against you and to cause you to fall away from your relationship with Elohim and your purpose. Especially if your marriage and family are a huge part of that calling. Especially if your marriage was Yah ordained, your family is Yah ordained and is your primary ministry. Okay? And the foundation of your marriage and family is His word. Even more, you have a bigger target on your back. This is where I would say again, do not share much of anything on social media concerning these things. Do not talk much about it unless Abba instructs you otherwise to do so. If He tells you, post this about your marriage or your family because it's going to help, so-and-so, or it's going to, help, 50 people turn to me or something like that, then do that. But especially if Abba has told you, you need to keep quiet. Don't speak on these things. Don't share these things because He already knows what's going to happen. And this is about protecting your blessings, your purpose, your calling, your marriage, your children. This is why He's telling you to be quiet, because if not, you're going to open the door for harm to come in, for attacks to come in. Protect what Abba has given you, be it a ministry, unless He tells you to put that ministry on a specific platform. If He tells you put your ministry on YouTube, put it on YouTube. If He tells you put it on Facebook, put it on Facebook. If He tells you to put it on a podcast, put it on a podcast. Okay? But if He does not instruct you to do so, keep your ministry private. Your marriage, keep it private. Okay, I understand when you're happy and you're in love and you're feeling good, you want to share these things. I get it. You want to share photos of the two of you together. You want to share the good times you're having, how long you've been together, how great it's been, and all these things. And I totally get wanting to do that. It's only normal and natural to want to do that. But I highly caution you not to do it, because you're opening the door up for people who are jealous of that, who envy it, who wish they had it, for the enemy who hates it and wants it to be completely destroyed, you name it. You're giving access when you do that. You're giving access. Okay? Your children. If you are pregnant, okay, do not be quick to share with everybody. Okay? I have actually heard and seen instances where people go and share things that God specifically told them not to do it because it was premature, it was too early, it was outside of His timing, or because God knew that people were going to be jealous of it or the enemy was going to attack it. And I've heard of sad things where people, while they're dating, right, or they're just barely coming together, they go tell everybody, they put it on social media, and guess what? 2 weeks later, they're broken up. I've heard people that find out they're expecting and they go and tell it to everybody. They put it all over social media. They do all these things, even though God has told them, be quiet about it, keep it silent for a good amount of time. Okay, and what has happened? They've miscarried. They've lost the baby. Okay, I've heard of these instances. I've seen it happen. Or because couples who are coming together, they start sharing what happens. People start feeding them all these opinions that are not of Elohim. And what happens is they get confused, they get discouraged, they get doubtful. This is another reason why you shouldn't put your business on social media or tell everybody. Especially when you're building. Build quietly. Build your marriage and family quietly. This is why I also talked about the thing with weddings as well. One, they're not called for, but two, for that same reason. Because then you've got all of these people's opinions, you've got all of these things that end up discouraging you, that end up causing you to become stressed, to become doubtful, you name it. Then on the flip side, I've seen people to where they're absolutely quiet. They keep things private, and then they announce, hey, by the way, we're married. Hey, by the way, we just had a baby. Or you understand what I'm saying? Yes, people are going to get offended. They're going to get hurt, but you know what? They'll get over it. What's more important is making sure that you and your family are protected. And again, unless Elohim instructs you otherwise, I highly, highly, with all my heart, encourage to those that will listen to this episode, okay, to really be in prayer concerning these things and to really seek Him concerning these things, because in all honesty, this is where I see a lot of attacks come from. This is where I see a lot of people make mistakes to where sadly things fall apart. The enemy attacks whatever it is that Abba's trying to do in their life, be it a ministry, be it a marriage, be it a family being brought together, especially if you're trying to blend a family too, all of these things you are putting at risk every time you throw it out there, every time you blast it all over social media, every time you tell a bunch of people. And I understand. I've said it myself. Well, it was loved ones. I thought I could trust them. I thought they would be happy for me. I thought they would support. When I read these verses in Sirach that I just shared with you, it really confirmed a lot for me. My friends, I know it can be hard, but we have to really be very careful about who we're putting our trust in. I know it seems like, because it's family members, right? Or because it's friends, you've known this friend for 10 years, or listen, I have heard of an occasion, okay, where, you share what's going on in your life with a good friend, okay? And you think that you're helping this friend, and you think that you're able to share these things and be happy for one another, and all of a sudden you find out that this person all along was jealous of what you had. Not only is that a very hurtful thing and a very sad thing, but when those things happen, that opens the door for the enemy to come in. Now we've just risked exposing everything that Abba is doing in our lives. Everything that is in our lives, we've just now exposed it. Brothers and sisters, we are in a very, 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 very challenging, dark, and difficult time. We are in what I believe are the end times, the end days, the last days, and the spiritual warfare is higher than ever and extremely intense. And for those of you that are walking closely to Elohim, you're walking in your purpose. You're walking in your calling. You're stepping into the things that Abba has for you. You especially need to be very, very careful, very cautious. Be careful who you are trusting. Be careful who you are talking to. Be careful what you are sharing. Be very careful. Be very careful, because there is an enemy out there, and there are people sadly out there that would love nothing more than to see you fail, than to see you hurt, than to see you broken, than to see you not have any good thing, not to be blessed, to see your marriage broken and fall apart, to see you by yourself, because they're by themselves. They're miserable and they're bitter, so they want everybody to be the same as them. The enemy, again, opposes anything that comes from Elohim. So if your marriage comes from Elohim, your children comes from Elohim, your ministry comes from Elohim, all those things, he opposes. Therefore, he will do what he can. Whether it's use the people around you, use the situations or circumstances or whatever that may be. And then you will have people in your life, sadly, that because they went through what they went through, they have their own demons, their own struggles. Unfortunately, whether they mean to or not, they're going to be jealous. They're going to have envy. They're not going to be happy for you. They're not going to support you. They're not going to celebrate with you because they don't have it. And their outlook is, why should I be happy for them? Why should I celebrate them when it's not happening for me? And that is the sad truth. And that is truly how people think. Because these are people that are not healed. These are people that are still struggling themselves with demons. Okay? Now, if you happen to have someone or a few people in your life that you can trust, that are genuinely happy for you and celebrate with you and support you, then by all means, and of course, as long as Elohim has given you the green light, by all means, share away. Because you know what? We should be able to share the blessings that Abba gives us. We should be able to share our testimonies. Because the whole point of testimonies is to help encourage people and to help people understand who Elohim is. It's not for people to be jealous. It's not for people to hate. It's not for people to be bitter. But unfortunately, it's the world we live in. And the ruler of this world is Satan. So unfortunately, we don't get that reaction very much, do we? I can't tell you how many times I personally have cried because I made the mistake of sharing something wonderful with people who I thought would care, people who I thought would be happy, or maybe it might help to encourage them and give them hope, you know? And I can't tell you what I've been through when I have shared these things and it ended up being the complete opposite. It is extremely hurtful. Now, if you are somebody that is sharing even the things that Abba is doing for you, and you're doing it in a show-off way or a boastful way, like, haha, look at what I got, and, you know, and all these kind of things, then you are absolutely going to fall, okay? Because Abba is not going to allow that. You can absolutely not take something he's blessing you with and rub it in people's faces or show off or be boastful or prideful. You will fall real quick, okay? Abba doesn't like those kinds of things, okay? And that's not why he's giving them to you. It's for you to go and be boastful and prideful and shove it in people's faces and show off. No. Okay, that is not what we are to do either. Okay? So if you're doing it in the wrong way as well, then yes, you know, negative things are going to come your way in regards to that. But I wanted to share this for those that will listen to this, because unfortunately I see too often social media being this place where people are being so transparent about their lives. They're putting everything out there, and it is so extremely dangerous. So very dangerous. And I just really felt very strongly to share this word and to say to please be very careful, okay? Be very cautious. Be private so that you have the protection that you need to have, okay? Because the level of spiritual warfare that is going on right now, for those that are in the body of the Messiah, for those that are truly walking in their callings, living in obedience to the Torah and the rest of the Bible, the level of spiritual warfare is intense and is higher than ever before. And I'm telling you right now that the enemy will use whoever around you, whatever around you, and social media is one of those ways that he will attack you, okay? That he will try to bring down or break apart what Abba has brought into your life. And again, that can be your ministry. That can be your calling. That can be your marriage. That can be your family. be very, very, very careful. Okay? These things are real. Demons are real. Spirits are real. Okay? Witchcraft is real. Monitoring spirits are real. Familiar spirits are real. Okay? And these are very much some of, or a few of many ways that Satan operates against the children of Elohim. Okay? So again, if you have an interest in reading more surrounding the verses that I shared with you today, it is the book of Sirach from the Apocrypha. And I actually highly encourage for you to actually read this book from beginning to end. Very, very, very much full of wisdom, very informative, very encouraging, very helpful. Very, very much. This book is absolutely full of wisdom. So I highly recommend this book. Study it, read it, and ask Abba to lead and guide you. Pray and ask him, concerning your life in the season that it's in, what you should keep quiet, keep private, protect it. Protect what he's doing in your life. If he gives you specific instructions to share certain things, or to put your ministry on a specific platform, or to maybe talk with a brother or a sister concerning your own marriage or your own family, then do that. Be obedient to his instructions. But outside of that, please pray before you go ahead and blast stuff on social media, or even just talking with co-workers or friends or family. Please pray and ask Abba if that's something you should be doing or not. Okay? I pray that this word gives you knowledge, wisdom, encouragement, and understanding. Okay? Because again, I see this too often, and this is one of the biggest ways the enemy is able to have access to attack so many of us and so many of the things that Abba is doing in our lives. Okay? So thank you so much for listening to this word. I'm sorry that it was a long one, but again, I just wanted to share what the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, had placed on my heart and spirit today to share with all of you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk with you in my next episode.